Guys, welcome back. So today we thought we would replicate a scenario that we feel happens basically with you guys day to day. Walk into a golf store, maybe have kind of watched some YouTube or read some magazines about the latest and greatest drivers. So you've got your own opinions about what loft you need, what head, what shaft, that type of thing, and you kind of go and try and make a fairly informed purchase and kind of how that plays out. We try to replicate that today. An
educated off-the-rack purchase.
Exactly.
So someone who goes in with some idea, not
Definitely.
No idea, but at least a general guideline.
You're not walking in there and buying 10.5 regular when you're swinging at 115 miles an hour, making a completely wrong decision. So this is somebody who's gone in with the right intentions, is in the right ballpark, but maybe not quite all the way there.
We want to show what the difference between something that's nearly good and something that's been really custom fit properly.
Exactly.
We didn't set out to say, here's something ridiculously wrong. We know, obviously, the wrong driver versus the right driver.
Yeah.
Clearly, that's good.
Exactly.
But how much better can you tweak something with everything you have access to here?
Is it a lot? Is it a little? What does improvement look like? Taking into account the player's characteristics, swing characteristics, swing dynamics, all that sort of thing. So we tested the Callaway Rogue. We just wanted to pick something Matt hasn't tried before, or not extensively. I mean, you haven't really. This is the standard Rogue as well.
Standard Rogue.
It's not the Sub-Zero. It's not the Draw. It's the off the shelf 9-degree offering. So Matt, paint the picture here. So Matt's good golfer. Knows he needs a fairly stiff shaft. Knows he needs a little bit less loft. Walks into the golf store. Has a little kind of rummage around the rack. Oh, there's a Speeder, 665. I've heard of those guys. They make good product. That must be an aftermarket shaft or a higher grade shaft.
Looks expensive.
Looks expensive. I'll give one of those a run. That head is the right loft. I normally play 9. I do well with that. I've heard that Callaway driver's great. Yeah, I'll buy that. Right. So that's the scenario that we've kind of painted. So let's see what the results were like for that. If we do a little comparison, so with Matty, your stock driver, 166 ball speed, 12.7 launch, 1900 spin, predominantly a nice little draw.
Yeah,
quite happy.
Got some really good results. Important to say, hit some really great shots, and I think it was clear after hitting it for a while, not a bad fit.
Not bad at all.
Certainly not something you'd be upset with. A few kind of interesting misses in there.
Yeah.
I'll touch on a couple of things that I felt. So the shaft for me in particular just felt a bit, I guess a bit weak, maybe in the mid and butt section.
Right, okay.
So I kind of felt it flexing in there a little bit more than I'm used to.
Interesting.
Obviously we tested with an off the rack kind of Golf Pride
Tour Velvet.
So a little bit slippery for my liking. Those two things I think probably contributed to me being maybe a little bit more erratic than maybe I would have been otherwise. And we had the face set on the standard setting, which with this one I guess is slightly closed.
Yeah.
And that's the way you'd buy it off the rack.
Yeah, so we've got a fraction of draw buys just to the setup of the head.
So those are kind of, that was my feedback. It felt like most shots were going to draw, and we did overdraw a few, and then obviously compensated and left a few open. Definitely. But generally speaking, I think that's something that someone might go out to the course and be like, yeah, that's the right driver, because I hit a few really good shots, and that's the way it should be. Yeah. So then at that point, how do we take that driver and take it to the next level?
Exactly. How do we kind of really sort of isolate the characteristics of the ball flight and improve on them and that type of thing? So knowing obviously what we know and having the ability to customize certain things, in our sort of simulated scenario here of Matt walking in with his driver, he's played with it for a couple of months and goes, maybe there's something better for me. And I've heard this place, this custom shop fairly close to me is does testing. I want to go and test my driver and see how it is. Right. So we've kind of tested Matt's driver, went, it's okay. Here's some of the differences we'd make. So, when we took this driver, we weighed out the head. I've said many times in the channel about Rogue being a bit lighter. So standard Rogue weighs about 187 grams without the tip in there. So we weighed that. So someone at your speed, I would go too light. That's too light. You're not going to have enough feel of where that club head is. You're not going to have enough mass to produce the impact we're looking for. So You know, first thing I done was flip out the 2 gram weight and put a 14 gram weight in there. Okay, so you know, people will ask, well, doesn't that change the CG location? Doesn't that make it further back? Sure. It does, but I'm okay with that. You know, I'm fine with that. You know, stabilizing the driver is not a bad thing. A little more mass. If you're going to put mass anywhere in a driver, you probably actually do want it in this spot anyway. So we're fine with that. We analyze Matt's swing. We go, okay, you're you know, very quick. You need something fairly stable. But you know, in terms of something that loads, you're not a heavy loader. You're someone who has just, you know, good mechanics and creates a lot of speed. Right. So we came up with the Graphite Design IZ6X. Right. Right. So golf pride grip, which you love.
A little more texture.
A little bit more texture, so I can handle the speed. You know, the hands feel as if they're really in control when you're swinging it. So we've really thought about all 3 components when we built this one.
And you did set it slightly open?
I've set it 1 degree open
because we saw through the delivery numbers, the face was just a bit shut on average. And that is in line with what we would expect, this being a bit more shut than I needed. So you've made, I guess, a number of adjustments. The head weight is probably the most interesting to me.
Yeah, I never mentioned that one, that I changed that while you were hitting it.
And that swing weight, I know for myself, makes a big difference in how well I hit the ball. So that's something really I would have probably not even expected to do, because my driver is probably closer to, what, 198 grams? Something like that?
Slightly over 2, yeah. Right. The Ping G400 heads are heavy.
So a big difference there. So what you made an adjustment once we switched to the customized driver, weight, shaft bend and profile, grip texture, face angle. All those things are essentially, you know, a similar club in many ways. But performance-wise, we saw massive difference. I think in the dispersion was a huge difference.
That was the biggest thing, wasn't it? You were able to kind of reduce the curvature. So on both clubs you had the start line down the left-hand side, but with the standard driver you were crossing over the target line onto the right side and kind of almost getting a little bit hooky with it. Too much curvature, too much shape.
It's fair to say, absolutely.
Okay, so based on keeping that face angle a little more open, we were able to actually hit the ball fractionally higher with less loft.
Yeah, so that the overall ball flight was a bit more just because we got a bit more ball speed.
Yeah,
just similar spin and similar launch, maybe a hair lower, which we expect from less loft.
Hair lower launch, but you know, and what we found, the velocity being higher, you know, brought your ball back up. So that was absolutely fine. You can almost, the more velocity you need, you have guys, you have to bring down those launch conditions. You know, you look at those guys in the World Long Drive. You know, they're trying to hit it as high as they can. They're trying to hit it at about 170 feet apex, but they're trying to do that with a 10-degree launch angle because they've got so much velocity. You know, 10-degree launch and 1600 spin, you know, is about ideal for them at, you know, 220 miles an hour ball speed. You know, that's their optimal. So depending on what your ball speed is, optimal launch and optimal spin change.
True.
So
a different player may have found that the 9-degree head wasn't enough loft, and they would have needed to go up to the 10.5.
Without a doubt. So interesting stuff when we put this together for you. That, you know, we eliminated the right side. That was your preference as a player. That was going to help you lower your scores. It wasn't a huge pickup in distance. You know, 10 yards was not massive. So I think it's important for us to state that your driver off the rack's not going to be shocking. You know,
it shouldn't be.
Not for a player like yourself. You know, you're not. It's not like you were in completely. If you walked in and you maybe with a 10.5 regular, you're probably going to be struggling even more for dispersion, and you know, your distance would suffer at times as well. Not so much the one-off shot. I'm sure you still hit the one-off shots long, but the consistency of them wouldn't be there.
No, and I think that's the situation that is more interesting to me, because when you have something that is close. That you know should be right for you, and you don't hit good shots consistently, I think you start blaming your swing. And obviously everyone has swing flaws, and you should work on your swing.
I see that all the time.
But there's shots with that driver in a closed position with a bit of a weak shaft that I probably would not have hit with the way we configured it the second time. So adding the confidence and the dispersion improvement, you're going to lower your score so much more just with those tweaks on something that was close but not quite.
Exactly. It's incremental, but it's incremental, you know, 4 or 5 different ways. It's a small change to the weight, it's a small change to the face setting, change of the shaft, change of the grip. You know, all these little kind of changes that we're making are all doing their little piece to incrementally improve your performance. You know, we saw your club head speed go up a little bit, you know, whether that's efficiency of how the shaft is accelerating through the kind of load process. You know, we're able to kind of keep the face open for a little bit longer, so that was able to, you know, reduce the curvature like we said. And the ball flight was fantastic, to the point where I said to Matty, do you want to go play that this week?
I might want to.
You should go give that a try.
Yep. Head to head.
Definitely try that against the ping that you've been playing. But really nice. I mean, you hit some big drives with that thing. There was a couple that flew kind of 306, 308 in the air, which are really good.
Really good driver. And I think I noticed really nice and forgiving across the face. I had
a few wasn't it?
I hit a few that I thought were kind of junky, high in the toe, but were nice and stable. So I think it's the standard Rogue being a little more stable than the Sub-Zero, I think is a good option for some people.
And I really encourage people when they try it, test different head weights. If you've got a bit more club head speed and you're playing a Callaway Rogue, I would, measure the head weight, get the old kitchen scales out and kind of, take your driver off and pop it on there. If it's sub 190 grams, you probably want to get a custom weight, one of these little guys, a little custom weight. And
do you order it from Callaway?
You can get them from Callaway, you can order them online. I mean, you can, third party them from eBay. You can get them a bunch of different places, somewhere like us.
Interesting.
Or other custom stores have access to them. So just being able to customize it that little bit honestly makes a big difference. And those little tweaks are just going to, really fine tune that driver for you.
Confidence, I think, is 90% of the battle, especially with the driver. If you believe you've got the right thing and you believe that your misses are better and your dispersion's better, that alone, and we saw like a little pickup in speed when I felt like I had a better shaft and it was a little more stable for me and the face angle was a little better, you tend to just kind of swing a little bit faster, more confident.
Yeah, that confidence really grows and you can see someone, enjoying the session, swinging and, it's always that one, okay, I'll hit this one a little bit harder because you feel like, the club can handle it. So
you feel like you can actually do it without missing wildly left or right.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome, that's great stuff. Really
so
good.
Guys, moral of the story, the difference between an off-the-shelf driver and a customized driver, at times it might be a lot, other times it might not be a lot.
Might be more subtle like this.
Yeah, this is subtle, that's a good way to put it. But in terms of, the improvements, you would take all of them. You would take the accuracy, you would take the consistency, you'd take the extra distance, the extra ball speed, all of the above is kind of incrementally nudged you towards being a better driver of the ball.
You play 50, 60 rounds of golf in a year, if that's your kind of frequency, that amount of difference in ball flight and dispersion is going to equate, it's going to bring your handicap down a couple shots.
Definitely,
no question.
Your strokes gained stat would be certainly improved, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Cool. Okay, guys, leave us your comments, leave us your thoughts. Interested to hear what you guys think about taking an off-the-shelf driver, customizing it, and making these subtle little changes and tweaks. And if you've had the same experience that maybe you had a driver that you liked and wanted to sort of invest in that driver and you went somewhere like here or another store and got a shaft that really brought out the best of it. I'd love to hear if you guys found the same sort of thing.
Yeah, and if you have a driver that you have bought off the rack and you want to ask us ways that you might improve it based on your ball flight, leave those comments too.
We can give you some ideas.
To steer you in the right direction at least. Yeah. To something you might want to try. I think that would be fun to see.
Definitely. And if, we've had a lot of sort of messages I've seen recently about, I've got this head, what shaft, would suit me. When you guys ask us those questions, try to give us a little bit of delivery information.
So
just a little bit. Doesn't have to be War and Peace. Doesn't have to be the full thing. But you can give us get a little background on your speed, your ball flight tendencies, what the good one looks like, what the bad one looks like, and that sort of thing. Just a little information, and we can really kind of get there with some good recommendations for you, and hopefully help help you guys out.
Yeah, and if you're interested in access to Ian and all the fitters here, we do have a program on Patreon for a little bit more of an intensive session. Yeah. Obviously, we still answer comments, but we're a little more brief with those.
Definitely.
But if you want kind of a fitting from a distance, I guess you'd call it.
Or kind of an online fit, that type of thing. We can do that. We have that platform available through Patreon.
Yeah, that's kind of was the big picture of that to begin with, and it's something that's been going really well. You've got some great emails back and forth giving guys kind of advice, and I think it's been successful so far.
It really has. I think it's a really good way for the guys who are going, I would really love to pick your brain. I'm not going to get the chance to come to Toronto. Yeah, exactly. What do I do? I've had all these bad experiences. Okay, well, it's funny on Instagram recently. I've had a ton of messages on Instagram.
Oh, really?
People kind of giving us different scenarios, and Patreon is really the platform where you'll get the most sort of value out of that, because then you can put attachments in there. You can send us GC code numbers or TrackMan numbers. Send us that stuff on Patreon. We can have myself or one of the team look at that and really start to do some deeper digging into what could help you, whether it's head, shaft, or both. Maybe you need to kind of, need a sort of wholesale change.
100%.
So that's a good way to do it.
Awesome.
Cool. Guys, appreciate you watching this one. Leave your comments below as always, and we'll see you again soon.